Hey, this is Brendan. Don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for listening in. Check out the like, hit the subscribe, hit the buttons. You know you want to.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Brendan. I'm here with SwingBadder as we go through the off-season moves. What off-season moves, you ask? The off-season moves that you care about, that your team cares about for the future. I'm here with my favorite two people. Todd, Lemieux, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm plugging along, rocking and rolling. You know, it's starting to get cold up here in the Northeast, so I'm really excited about pitchers and catchers reporting in about a month, I think. So just because the idea of seeing sunshine is something I live for every day. It's the light at the end of my tunnel.
The light at the end of a lot of people's tunnel, because Arizona is going to be the destination for all of your favorite times here coming February. And my other favorite person in the world, Dad, how you doing?
Good. You know, sometimes, Brendan, you like to ask me what I just ate. I want to tell you what I ate for breakfast today. I ate Vermont maple syrup. It doesn't matter what I poured it on. That's irrelevant. You got Vermont maple syrup. Your breakfast is aces.
So cannot even remotely disagree with that. That's fantastic. You're probably on cloud nine, the best of the best. So we're going to put something to bed here. We've been talking about quite a bit. He didn't go to the Mets. He didn't go to the Giants. And he ends up back where he started. He's almost like one of those cartoons of the Family Circus where the kid goes out to get groceries and he comes back home and his mom goes, "Where'd you go?" And he goes, "Nowhere, I love you." So I guess he's back in Twin City there, and he's telling him how much he loves them. And we're ready to finish what we started, I think his tweet said, something to that nature, which is pretty comical. I'm going to start with you, Todd. This was a roller coaster.
In the words of the Cowboys to the Wyatt Earp brothers as they were leaving, bye.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.
That's it.
You're like, don't sit here and try to sell me on the fact that your 6-year, $200 million deal is better than the one that you were offered from the Mets. Don't. You just like the fact that there was $200 million guaranteed instead of $157 million guaranteed, which leads me to believe you didn't believe in your ankle as much as you're telling everybody else you believed in your ankle. Because if you believed in the ankle, you'd go with the Mets deal because it would have paid more on the back end. But you wanted it guaranteed because you don't believe in the ankle past the age of 34. Seems reasonable to me. And listen, that's fine. Twins fans, we need to have a conversation. When he leaves and cheats on you and talks about how the Giants are the team to be at and talks about how excited he is to be on the Mets, and then when he comes back to the Twins and he says, "Honey, I'm home," and he's got lipstick all over his collar, you know where he been, you know what he been up to, and you know that he got beat out of 2 houses. And now here he's coming back to you, and you're going to sit here and pretend that, "Oh, yeah, he's back where he belongs. I love you, honey. Kiss, kiss, smack, smack. I'll just bleach that out of the collar." You got played. You got played. Dad, I'll let you comment, and we can go into some comments.
What made the whole story so intriguing is that you got a guy signing with one team, then supposedly going to sign with another team. But what made it really interesting is it was New York. And New York is where drama percolates like coffee. It just percolates. It got so stupid, I read a rumor that Carlos Correa has an identical twin brother. Did you hear that one? An identical twin brother who's actually been playing for him because Carlos Correa can't play baseball. And the guy you're looking at is not the guy with the bad leg. It's his identical twin brother. So, whatever gets you through the night.
That would have been more entertaining than the drama we went through over like the Christmas and New Year break. Did you see this article in USA Today with Scott Boras talking about his side of the deal? You know, because this guy, you know, who some teams don't even deal with on these big money contracts, Dodgers, cough, cough, right? So he's talking about how Oh, we explained it all to the Mets. I just don't understand. We had 4 doctors we gave to them. And then the Mets went and consulted with the same doctor the Giants did, as if it would be different. Yeah, because maybe the Mets wanted to find out what was actually going on with your client rather than just you're relying on the doctors the agent put forward. Look like they're not getting any money under the table, right? So, tell your story, Walken. And it's not like the Mets have a future with Batty at third base. They have a future there. Escobar is fine for now, warming up the hot corner for Batty as he comes in. Batty's got some work to do with his glove, but he's the kid can bang, and I'm not really overly concerned. Was Correa nice? Yes, because then you could use Batty as trade bait in order to bring in some other talent somewhere, that type of thing. But I not really concerned about the Correa thing. Did that sound convincing? Did I sell that? Did I sell it good?
I just got dumped by the girl I thought I was going to marry 2 weeks ago, and I'm cool. No problem.
No, it's fine.
I think you're selling it fine for me because I don't think Correa is the missing piece for the Mets. I think he was a nice addition to the Mets. I thought he was a nice to have product, but at the end of the day, the contract and what he wanted and what he was hoping for, it just didn't work out for both those teams. He's back in Minnesota. He did play for the Astros, so he has played for a relevant team in the past. Do the Twins ever go to the playoffs with him? I don't think so. Does he ever become relevant again? I don't think so. Does he demand a trade at some point, or do the Twins try to trade him like the Colorado Rockies do? Who knows? At the end of the day, it will be a story that is a non-story. Lots of paper, lots of writing, lots of folks commenting on something that ends up going to the Twins, and even the Twins know that their team is not looking that good this offseason. So, again, hats off, he got the money. Hats off, he got the guarantees for $200 million. I'm sure that extra $50 million is a big deal to him for tax purposes and what have you. I certainly can understand. Here at SwingBadder, we deal with quite crazy contracts with our upgrade on this podcast, so I can relate. And so I get it. I understand the $50 million. I want to get the money, cash it in. And of course, if you're the agent, you get a percent of that deal. I'm pretty sure he wanted to see the guarantees as well. So not going to say the agent steered him wrong or steered him right, but he's won his last playoff game maybe with the Astros back in the day. So he's been searching for that cash. So here he is.
One, I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. He won with the Astros, because we'll put a little asterisk on that. That faint din you hear in the background is not the drums of war. It is the pounding of plastic trash cans. So, and you know what's going to make this even better is next year when the Mets sign both Machado and Ohtani. And we sit there and we go, remember when we could have had Correa? Let's go for our 6th World Series in a row with those guys.
Well, that's an aggressive offseason next year. They've had an aggressive offseason this year. We'll see how the hedge fund does for the old owner for the Mets there.
Go big.
I think that puts it a wrap. We can put that coffin in the ground and just say thank you, Correa, for the good times, and we can move on. We have a brand new feature at SwingBadder for all those folks out there. This is the dating feature. This is for single folks out there. As you well know, our audience is full of folks that are following contracts, looking at baseball players. And if you're doing that as a guy, we're pretty much looking at you as a single item. And I want to give you some dating advice because out there is tough. It's a tough marketplace for men. It's a tough marketplace to find and experience people that are not on some kind of an app. So when you do land that date and you do get to take that young lady out and you're excited about things and you want to have a conversation to lead to a second date, I'm going to give you 3 wonderful startup conversations that will guarantee a SwingBadder second date. And you can put that into your hopper however you like it. First, talk about the Matrix. Just talk about the Matrix as a obscure item that's out there in the universe that's controlling devices and putting the world against you. Young ladies love to hear your thoughts about randomness, about an item that has no base in reality. They can really relate to you. That'll get you a second date because they're kind of trying to figure out, is this man for real? Next thing I would talk about is how great your mom's meatloaf is. That's a winner. Once you can say, my mom makes great meatloaf and I really love it. I go over there every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when I don't have a young lady to go on a date with. And you should come over sometime and we can have meatloaf with my mother. Winner. Girls are going to, again, say yes to that second date immediately. And last but not all, if you're going to go on a date and you want to dress fantastic, what you want to do is you want to wear shorts with at least 8 pockets. The reason for that is it's not just a style point. It's also for all of the things that could happen in the world that you are now prepared for, with certain pocket knives, certain cell phone holders. These are fantastic features that says to that young lady, not only am I not MacGyver, but I have the ability to be prepared for that moment that no one's suspecting. And I'm prepared for it because I have 8 pockets and I'm ready, because something is in each of these pockets that's going to be ready for those moments. And women love guys that are prepared for the unknown. So there's my 3 dating tips on the first date. Happy to help. Again, SwingBadder's here to help you be successful in the dating market.
I'm shocked and I'm astounded at the fact that this is even past the producers for a segment. The only thing you're missing there is that with the massive cargo or shorts, they should be wearing socks with sandals.
I leave the
gives you that
discretion up to the individual. I'm just giving them 3 really good points that women really love. They just love those things.
That's basically 3 strikes. Everything you gave is the worst advice possible, and I cannot emphasize this enough.
I would add something to the meatloaf question. Instead of saying you go over to eat the meatloaf twice a week, you should say, I go upstairs to eat the meatloaf as frequently as I can. I think that paints a good picture.
I feel like a crash test dummy at Tesla. I'm never utilized, and anything I do is a total failure. Like, this is, what are you even...
This is your SwingBadder dates, because if there's one thing we know about contracts, we know about weight. And let me tell you,
if any of these 3 things are viable, you're not on the date.
I just want people to tell us their experience. When you talk about an obscure matrix, how did that go? How many second dates did you get when you went on that date? If you wore the cargo shorts and you were prepared for everything, I'm sure she looked at you and said, hey, we should go to a spring training game together. Let's fly to Arizona or Florida. I want to hear from you, the listener, how this bit of advice, SwingBadder dating advice, really helped you. How did mom's meatloaf end up in the heart of your girlfriend the way it ends up in your heart? It's important things. Comment, share.
This is a train wreck.
All right.
This is a train wreck wrapped in a dumpster fire, as Anderson Cooper said.
Fantastic. And now we get to what we're really here for. Let's talk about contracts in the offseason. Now, we're not just going to talk about everything that have all the big signings. We're all excited about that. Everyone's excited. Pitchers and catchers are reporting here next month. So we wanted to look at the offseason and see what the top pitchers were signed. And we're looking at starting pitchers right now. We're going to dabble probably a little bit. And I want some commentary from, obviously, from my father and my brother here to talk about what we're looking at. But the top 5 signings in the offseason that we had this wondrous, expansive, really expensive offseason. And what teams really landed these pitchers. So the top 5 pitchers, 2 of them used to play for the Mets. They no longer play for the Mets, but they're in the top 5. We're looking at average salary. That's all we're looking at. I'm not looking at the total contract, years, what have you. So we're going to start with Mr. Verlander. He's number 1, getting $43.3 million. He was signed by the Mets on a 2-year deal option for a third, which puts him above the $100 million threshold. He's 39. He's practically 40 years old at this point. Was fantastic for the Astros last year. So he has a 2-year guaranteed offer by the Mets. Going down the list is Mr. deGrom going to the Texas Rangers for $37 million a year, 5-year deal at 34.5 years old. Carlos Rondon with the Yankees, $27 million. So there's a big break. You got 43.3, 37, then 27 a year. That's a 6-year deal with the Yankees. Chris Bassett has a 3-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, $21 million per year. Again, as you can see, there's a sharp little decline. And the 5th one is a single-year deal with the Dodgers, and that's Mr. Clayton Kershaw. Of these 5, which ones do you guys like the most? Dad, I'll start with you in the offseason, and then we'll go to the 6 through 10 rating here.
I think the Yankees are going to be happy with the Rodon signing at 27. I have a question. I'm not, I wasn't in New York and he pitched there this year, but is that pronounced right or is it Bassett? How did
It's Bassett, like the Hound.
Like the Hound, okay. Yeah, I think he's a good signing, but if you had to make me pick one, I think Rodon. But the Yankees is
the youngest of all those top signings.
I think that's for the dollars involved. I mean, we're comparing craziness with craziness, but still, that seemed to make the most sense.
Todd, who do you think is the best before I get to the worst?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rodon signing, I mean, just if you're going to future-proof a contract, you're locking the guy up till 35 years old. Was he $27 million a year? Yankees did a good job there. I mean, out of all of them, I think that's the one that's probably going to be the most reliable, followed closely by the Toronto signing of Chris Bassett. He's not as overpowering as Rodon, certainly, but, he's 33, so you lock him up until 36. I personally like the Verlander signing because I think that's great to have somebody that's that dominant come in for a short amount of time and pair up with somebody like Max Scherzer. So
my opinion on this is I think Clayton Kershaw is a winner for the Dodgers. It's a single-year deal. It's not a lot of money. He gives them the hometown bargain at $20 million. Yes, he does have injuries. Yes, he does have problems. But at the end of the day, he's a Dodger for life. We all know he's going to retire a Dodger, and they're all happy with that. I think the Yankees did a very good job this offseason. Yes, they re-signed Judge. They did pay him a ton of money. But adding Rendon to the starting lineup as a pitching option for you as you're battling the playoffs, it's fantastic. They're very strong going into next season, and they're very strong going into several seasons with the starting pitching and the power hitting as well. It's a very good matchup. I like what the Yankees did a lot. So I would agree with you on that. As far as the worst of these 5, I'm going to give you my worst in a moment. Dad, do you want to tell me who you think is the worst of these 5?
Well, I have trouble with the top 2. I think because of age with Verlander, but he has, he worked a lot of innings last year. So if I was forced, I would put deGrom, not by talent. I mean, when the guy pitches and he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball, bar none. But they just couldn't get him to pitch for the Mets the last 2 years for any amount of innings. So if he's truly healed, he'll really help the Rangers, but he's not going to help them for 5 years. That's not going to happen, and it may be worse. So, I mean, I don't wish bad health on anyone, but man alive, 5 years with that guy's track record of health, not liking that.
I think those are all fair points. Todd, what do you say of the top 5?
Totally agree. There's nothing more I can add to the deGrom thing at all.
I think he is the worst of all of the signings because of the 5 years. The average salary as well, it's $37 million. The other thing that adds to it for me is he has very few complete games. And he went to a team, the Texas Rangers, who are committed to lots of dollars on individual players. So you need a very good bullpen to shore up, because if he gets pulled after 6 innings or 5 innings or 7 innings to keep his health, you got to get through the next 3 innings of whatever he has been pitching. And usually that's when the Mets struggled with him. He would leave the game, they would lose the game, or he would leave the game tied 1-1. Because usually when you have a pitcher of that kind of caliber, the hitters tend to tense up because they're trying too hard, i.e. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez. This is just a natural thing that happens to hitters. It's a natural human psychology thing. So to me, the commitment by Texas, fantastic. I'm glad you committed, but I just can't. I think he is the worst of the top 5. I would agree with that.
I'm more concerned with Jacob deGrom's mental state, because he sat down in an interview and actually, when they announced that he was signing with Texas, he actually said that they were building a winning, quote unquote, winning culture, and he likes the direction the team's going in. So I'm more concerned with Jacob deGrom's ability to know what is real and what is fake. So the fact that he has such poor judgment, I don't know. That, to me, maybe Texas isn't taking a look at what's actually going on. Or maybe he's not. Or maybe they just both don't care, and they're just looking to sell some tickets. Go figure.
I think if he had the press conference later, after they signed a couple more players, I would agree with that. But, I mean, again, you got to be all in when you're signing that deal, and you got to tell the fans that you're all in.
To be fair, the number 6 starting pitcher was Martin Perez, also signed.
Jumping ahead of me, but I love where you're going. I love where you're going.
Right? So
I don't pay any attention to what guys say after they sign a contract, because they're all lying. They went with the most money, but they can't say it. So they'll tell you that their wife likes to live there, or, it's been their dream to always grow up in Manhattan, or whatever they're going to say. But it's the money that really is why they signed. We talked about this before, and it's been alluded to, Brendan.
That's sort of twins Carlos Correa.
It was alluded to before. The way that baseball's played now, the starters are only around for 5 to rarely do they get through the 7th inning. So you win or lose the games, unless you're blowing them out, which anybody can win those games if you're up 7-1. You're won in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings with your bullpen. I can't tell you how many times Mets loaded up. They had deGrom and Scherzer 1 and 2. And I would watch their games, and so many of those games in the 7th inning were 1-1, 2-1, 1-0, and the bullpens were going to decide the game, as no matter how well they pitched. So to that end, I'm going to bring up something I read the other day. It was a propaganda piece out of Philadelphia, but they listed like 6 or 7 relievers that they have, claiming that their bullpen is now the strongest in the National League East. If that's close to true, we're really looking at Phillies, the Mets, and the Braves all having very, very good teams. And if you do have that strong bullpen, Phillies may be moving up in my mind as a competitor there.
And again, as we get through the starting pitching, that's what I think needs to be remembered in this. You're spending a lot of capital on the starting pitching, which is fantastic. You do need it. It is a piece. You need people who chew up innings. The problem is you don't have a lot of folks who are chewing up innings. The next 5, I think, are even more interesting because, the amount of money in the cap off. So that was a $43.3 million down to $20 million for the top 5. That's per season. That's what it was. The next 5, it starts at 19.6, and it takes you all the way down to about 13.3 per season. So as you can see, there's a massive drop-off. You have a $30 million drop-off between the first pitcher, Verlander, and the 10th pitcher. So the next 5, you have Martin Perez. I believe it's Martin Perez. He was with Texas. He signed a 1-year deal, $19.6 million. He was their best pitcher last season. Mr. Walker, who was with the Mets, he was signed with the Phillies for 4 years at $18 million. Mr. Jameson Taillon was with the Yankees, signed with the Cubs at a 4-year, $17 million. Nathan, who I always screw up his last name.
The O is silent.
Evaldi. Very easy. Nathan Evaldi with Boston, who was their pitcher on Boston, and Boston was terrible. He signs with Texas 2 years, $34 million, $17 million per. And then Zach Eflin, he's went to Tampa for a 3-year, $40 million or 13.33. Dad, of those 5, who makes your stomach churn right off the bat?
Well, that's an easy one for me. Walker's a waste of money. But I also want to refer to what we talked about before. I think Zach Eflin said he was going to a winner. So that's why you can absolutely ignore what these guys say. But Walker, forget it. He is at best, he'll have some good games. But in the end, his earned run average will be around 4. And if you want, I think you can find a starter to pitch 5 or 6 innings at that rate for a lot less money. That's just my opinion. You know,
he's 30, going to the Phillies, so leaving the Mets.
Every year, the starting pitchers that really make a difference are guys you never thought of. For the Dodgers last year, Julio Urias was he and the guy that Tyler Anderson, while all their other pitchers were hurt, those guys were carrying the Dodgers. And most people don't even know who they are unless you live in Los Angeles. And so these big-name guys with the big money, good luck. I hope they work out for you. But Walker's the one that I just don't like to walk.
Todd, who's the one on those 5 on that list of 5 that turns your stomach a little bit?
The Walker signing is just a wash for losing Zach Eflin. Like, I don't, like, to me, I don't, the Walker one doesn't bother me because I'm kind of washing out if I'm the Phillies. I'm not really making a big change there. I'm just kind of replacing Zach Eflin with somebody that's slightly better with Walker. So, yeah, whatever with that. Texas signing Martin Perez to 1 year, I don't blame him for that one. I'm not committing a lot. That doesn't bother me, that one. Talent to the Cubs, I think, is actually a good signing, which leaves the Evaldi one as the one that's just the real idiot move until I really look at Zach Eflin going to Tampa Bay. I don't understand this for either team. Was Tampa Bay thinking this was the big signing that's going to get them over the hump? Because is this their big starting pitcher signing that's going to sell tickets?
Nope.
Is this it for them? Like, who does Tampa have on the roster as a starting pitcher that actually says, like, oh, this is great? Zach Eflin, you signed a guy with a 4 ERA. A 4 ERA and a 1.20 whip. What do you do?
They got him for 3 years.
You could get.
They didn't get him for like 1 year.
Yeah, you could get. I could get 2 pitchers at this price who could probably flirt with a 3.75.
No,
am I wrong?
I think this is.
Am I wrong? I don't understand Tampa doing this.
This is why you're doing the whole starting pitching. Is for me, when you look at Texas, I could easily argue that these 2 pitchers in the 6 through 10 range are better than deGrom. Nathan chews up innings. He has been consistent for Boston. He does not get injured. And then Perez is the same deal. I think both of those pitchers, that's your 1 and 2, and deGrom's your 3. Yes, when he pitches, he's your 1, but he's your 3 because he doesn't pitch as much. I think that's why a lot of people are attracted to Texas. The problem with Nathan is he gets you to the 5th inning, 6th inning, he get pulled, and the relievers for Boston blew it. Same with Perez when he was with Texas. He had like a 2-something ERA last year, but the bullpen did not give him enough wins. That's the problem. To your point earlier about the Phillies. So I would agree with him being the worst. Zach is the worst for Tampa because of the amount of time that they signed him, and he's really not a good pitcher. Like, if you're in fantasy and you're playing on a weekly basis, you pick him up because every once in a while he pitches good, but every once in a while he gets destroyed. As far as the best signing there,
his only hope is he's 28 years old, and when this contract's over, he'll be 31, and so maybe the guy's going to try to prove himself in Tampa by making. I don't know. Was the demand that low?
I guess, and the other thing that's shocking to me is Perez on a 1-year deal. I think that's the best signing of this 5 group. He was their best pitcher last year for the Rangers. He'd get him back for a 1-year deal, $19.6 million. I think that's fantastic. He's 31, going on 32. He's right in his prime. He could have asked for a 3-year deal. He did not. I don't know why. He's happy in Texas. He's getting the deal. Everyone's happy and excited. I think he's the best one of the 5. What says you, Dad?
I think that we have to remind our listeners, though, when we say the best deal, we're always talking from the point of view of the team. Obviously not the player. The player is just who gave you the most money. So, I really must confess, I don't know a whole bunch about Zach Eflin, which says to me he can't be that amazing. I think I like what you're saying, but I keep going back to Walker. I just don't get Walker. I got another idea. If you want to replace Zach Eflin, instead of paying $13 million or whatever it is to Walker, trade for a AAA guy who probably could do just as well. Okay, there's a lot of guys in AAA that if you just put them on the mound, will give you, 3.5 to 4.5 ERA early in their career, barring injuries. You don't have to spend that kind of money. I mean,
$18 million for 4 years.
Yeah,
No, 13 million. It was $18 million every year for 4 years.
And so who's your best of those five? Obviously, it's not Walker. You don't like Walker.
We're in the second, we're 6 or 10.
Perez or Eovaldi or Talion, because I don't think you liked Effin, and I don't think you like Walker.
No, clearly the best one is Perez. That's a good deal. I mean, he's a good pitcher. I'm really surprised they didn't sign him for more years. I mean, I know he's 31, but they run the risk of this guy going somewhere after if he has a good year. They could lose him to spendthrifts.
This year last year. And Todd, who's your best of this five?
I think Toronto with Italian. I think
the Cubs. Yeah, the Cubs got
the
it.
Cubs. I thought the
Toronto. They were in the top five with Bassett.
Right. Okay. Got it. I mean, Jameson. The guy's he's tall. He has 6'5". But again, it's 4.0 ERA. I don't know. I'm going to hold my nose and say Italian, just because I like the Cubs and I like what they did this offseason. So maybe they're.
I agree with you on the Cubs. The next five are going to be interesting because now you're in this is where everyone doesn't move very much. You're not going to get a big shift. This is $13 million to roughly 12.5. And so you have Tyler Anderson going from the Dodgers to the Angels at $13 million. He gets a 3-year deal. Jose Quintana goes from the St. Louis Cardinals to the Mets at $13 million, 2 years. Noah Syndergaard, who used to be with the Mets and the Angels and everybody else and the Phillies, now goes to the Dodgers at 1 year, $13 million. The Dodgers in these 1-year deals is pretty interesting to me. And then the next two are both signed by the Giants. Ross Stripling and Sean Manaea. And I think both of those are stellar signings. And those are both at 2 years, $25 million, $12.5 million per both of those for the San Francisco Giants. So of those five, who is the worst that you're like, I don't like that one at all? Todd?
Tyler Anderson.
Has it, Dad?
Tyler Anderson, when they did it, we said it was stupid. We're talking about it now. It's still stupid. There's nothing about this deal that makes sense. It's like the Dodgers rejects drove down the freeway and ended up in the Angels stadium, and all of a sudden we're supposed to think this is a good deal. It's going to sell tickets. The Tyler Anderson signing is so dumb on its face. No, it stinks. It's like Oscar the Grouch decided to show up in Anaheim with a contract. This Anderson deal is out of these five. The Anderson deal is the dumbest one, which means, of course, it's the Angels.
Very fair.
That's hard to argue with, except I've never been a big Ross Stripling. How much they paying this guy?
$12.5 million. 2 years.
12.5.
Well,
2 years.
Is he a starter? Is he a middle reliever? I mean, I know he's got a good body type and he's got skills, but I don't see him as moving the meter anywhere that he's been. He's, to me, kind of just a veteran guy. It's like the last two, Manaea and who was the other one the Giants signed? Was it Stripling and Manaea? It's just like we had this money that we couldn't give away to Correa, so we're just going to throw it on people at the end of the rotation. and hope they do something with us.
I think you have to remind yourself.
Good luck.
They lost Rendon. So when you talk about him being taken by the Yankees, so they replaced him somewhat with these two. They did not get Correa. I mean, I like the signing, but in relations to what they lost, I think the gap is too big. I don't think they make it up. And
I'll tell you why Stripling was a good deal. If you're the Phillies, do you sign Stripling or Walker?
Stripling.
Great. I got him for $6 million less. That's a better signing.
2 years less.
And 2 years, right, and 2 years less.
That's a crazy. I mean, again, yes, he's 33 and Walker's 30. So you're only getting until 35, but you're getting Walker till 34.
I think the Giants are going to get more innings out of those two guys for $25 million than Eflin, than Walker. I think those are good moves by the Giants. I disagree with you on that one. I think
that makes it interesting what the agents do. I think the Dodgers they have two pitchers here in the top 15, both single season deals, Noah and Clayton Kershaw. And I think Noah's trying to prove himself because he's been floundering since the Mets said goodbye. So that's interesting to me on the Dodgers. The next bit, we're going to go, the next five just clearly go from 12.5 basically to $10 million. Andrew Heaney signed with Texas for a 2-year, $25 million deal, $12.5 million. Mike Clevenger went from the Padres to the White Sox, 1 year, $12 million. Corey Kluber, he is 1 year, $10 million with Boston. Kyle Gibson, 1 year, $10 million with Baltimore. And then Matt Boyd went back to Detroit from Seattle. He was once with Detroit. He got a 1 year, $10 million deal. And that rounds up your next five. And then you're starting to get to the cheapies. So I think this will be the last five that we do. Which one turns your stomach when you hear those five?
Well, it just seems to me like all of them seem to be guys who have been struggling, but they have a history of being good. So you're taking a flyer, saying, a guy like Clevenger, maybe he'll get it back. And I remember him in the playoffs. He started a game for San Diego and didn't get a single person out in the beginning of the game. So you got guys who really Kluber, same thing. At one time they were really good, but they haven't been. So you're taking a flyer on them. And to me, they all kind of fit in that category. It's hard for me to pick one. I don't get excited about any of them, but one of them might hit, and you'll be very pleased.
For me, the one that turns my stomach is Kluber, Corey. He used to be great with the Indians. He was terrible with Tampa this year, and now he goes to Boston. Again, Boston signing a name that back in the day that makes you get excited until you realize he's 37 and over the hill, and Aaron Judge can't wait to tee off on him. So I don't think he makes it through the season. The other one is Gibson. I think this is Gibson's last deal as well. He's been hovering in the 4 or 5 ERA range the last few years. He has some great games, but overall he is, in my opinion, those are the two that strike me as really not great signings. Todd?
Heaney.
Well, what's your problem? What's your problem with Heaney? Give me some numbers.
Why you hate Heaney is because he sucks. That's my problem with him.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Your number 5 reliever, like $10 million. $12.5 million for your number 5 reliever.
But last year he was good, was he not?
Yeah. Look at the year before.
Todd's not wrong. I'm just going to do stats. Todd is not wrong here. So he had a year that was out of this world. So he was a 3.1 ERA. The last time he sniffed a 3 anything ERA was 2015. He is a 4.56 ERA guy. He is a whip of about a 1.24. Home runs given up, things of that nature. Last year was an anomaly at what he pitched. And I mean an anomaly.
But how much did they sign him for?
12.5.
Yeah, he gets 12.5 for Texas.
12.5.
No,
I want you to think about the number of people Texas has signed hoping They're literally smoking a giant pipe of hopium that these people, that Jacob deGrom can actually pitch for a complete year, for 5 years. That Andrew Heaney does not return to what he did, but that, Brennan, give me the number of innings that Andrew Heaney's pitched last 2 years.
This last year was, sorry, just went off him for a second. I was just looking at Texas signings because he's this is the fourth pitcher that we have announced starting pitcher wise for Texas. The first one
last year he pitched 35 innings.
No. 2022 season.
No, last year he pitched 72. Year before 35. Year before 94. He hasn't pitched 100 innings. Oh no, I'm sorry. He's on 3 different teams. That's what I'm adding up.
So he pitched over 100 innings.
21.
It was not memorable. A 5.83 ERA. That's why he went around from team to team to team. And then 4.46, 4.9 run. He's with the Angels, which again, if you remember him on the Angels, he's one of those starters that you pick up on fantasy hoping to get a win. You're not hoping for ERA or strikeouts. He just doesn't have it. So now,
so that's a starting pitcher. He pitched 72 innings last year. Jacob deGrom, what he pitched 30 innings last year. That's a starting pitcher.
Yeah, we need to look at all of those. All of Texas's signings this year is interesting because again, that's 4 pitchers that they put on their payroll, and they're saying, we're changing it up. We're going to be a winner. We're going to add these pitchers. We got a new rotation in town. So the best pitcher, in my opinion, is, again, Perez was fantastic. Last year, 2.89 ERA, pitched 196 innings. He hasn't pitched over 150 innings but one time in the last 4 years. So this is the first year he went over 150 innings, Perez. He signs for 1 year. He did 196. So again, to Todd's point, Texas is hoping that he has another year where he's close to 200 innings. And the 2.89 ERA is
I'm sorry. If you
record, he's at 4.4.
If
average.
you are
just to know what you're hoping for, you're hoping that this guy does it again. So that's number one. Go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
That's every single pitcher Texas has signed. The Texas Rangers' new mascot should be somebody kneeling in prayer. It should be the Texas Prayer Warriors, because that's the only way they're getting a full season out of any of these guys this year.
I said Nathan was an inning warrior, so here's Nathan's problem. 150 innings. That's the magic number I'm looking at. Just 150 innings. He did that in 2015, 154 innings. 2021, that's it. That is not a good average for Nathan either. And they signed Nathan for a long time. He has gone over 150 innings 3 times in his career since 2011. So Perez, not very good. Nathan, not very good. It makes the signings sound good because they're pitchers that you know. These are pitchers that you're very like, oh yeah, Jacob deGrom. Let's look at deGrom's numbers. We looked at Heaney. We looked at Nathan. We looked at Perez.
Right.
If you look at deGrom, and again, to Dad's point, he is unreal when he pitches. He had 200 innings 3 times in a row, 17, 18, 19. Since then, he hasn't capped over 100 innings. Let's just sit.
It's the same part of the country that's paying Dak Prescott $19 million a year.
So again, I would say that deGrom may be the best signing because I think he has the best chance to have 150 innings. The other guys are not as likely. So then here's your problem. All of your pitching staff is not thoroughbreds. You're hoping to get through it, and then you got to focus on what? The bullpen. And Texas, as much as everyone wants to feel good about you, your bullpen still stinks. I think 68 wins last year. I think if you're hovering about 75 wins this year, you should be pretty happy. Again, Seattle and Houston are way better. Way better. So that's our top 20 starting pitching. As you can see, you can get some value out there if you're a general manager and you're listening to our show. Or if you're a fan who's subscribing and liking every episode, because we appreciate you doing so, you can tell your owner you don't need to spend $40 million on a pitcher like the Mets did. Now, granted, if you want to spend that, I think Verlander was a good signing for that. He's pretty much a thoroughbred. Unless Todd's going to prove me wrong on innings right now and tell me how, oh yeah, he's been terrible for innings pitched the last few years.
I love it. I love Verlander. He's the best.
As the Mets fans would say. So what have we learned in this episode of starting pitching, Dad? What can you you've seen this change all the course of time?
I think there's too much emphasis on it. I think the guys in the top 5 probably, they got a lot of money out there, and I hope it works out. I'm not trying to have anybody fail except the Dodgers, but they're not on the list. I think, though, this has been on my mind, probably have to do it the next time. The elephant in the room, which is a big elephant, is where is Trevor Bauer pitching this year? I read an article that said the Mets and the Yankees have told him keep walking. They're not interested, which, as we all know, is a lie. But anyway, where's he going to pitch?
I think that's a great question. Verlander, just for the record, for all those sitting at home, he missed one season because he had the injury, but the last 5 seasons he's over 200 innings. 5 seasons. The only one was he had, I believe, I forgot was the injury in 2020. Was it Tommy John? Okay.
Yeah.
So he had Tommy John, and he has started 28 games last season, had 175 innings, which was his light one. So you could say he's a little bit light, but again, I think they're in a good spot. I think the best thing about this is if you're a top 5 pitcher in the offseason and get signed, God bless you. I think Texas has a lot of helium going around there. There's a lot of hot air. There's a lot of feel good energy with those names, but it just, when you dig down on the stats, you're hoping for everybody to hit lightning in a bottle on every one of those guys. Todd, final thoughts on starting pitching?
I think we're going to realize that Kansas City won the starting pitching lottery with Yarborough. That signing is going to be the best bang for your buck.
How much? Tell everybody how much.
Because it's $3 million.
How many years?
It's $3 million a year for 1 year.
And he's a lefty. He's serviceable. He's a starter. He's a middle reliever.
When this guy comes in this year with a sub 350 ERA and comes in with a whip right around 125,
can't beat it.
I'm going to tell you something. Texas Rangers look a little bit to the east and a little bit to the north, and you're going to find a team that knows where to find value.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's all we have for SwingBadder this episode. As you tune in, we'll be going over position players. Next time, we'll be talking probably relief pitchers. We're looking forward to these massive signings and then also how it benefits the team. Anyways, SwingBadder every day. Hope you have a great week. Hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. I'm your host, Brendan. Take care.